who always has his best production in the month of December. Since 2016, he's got more rushing yards and touchdowns than any running back in the month of December. We saw what he did last week against that Colts defense, who we know they were down some key players, but he basically took them to the yard, 3 touchdowns in just the first half there. So the run game is obviously the most important, but Baker Mayfield made a really good point this week. He said, we can all focus on that, but let's not forget about the quarterbacks here. Baker Mayfield and Ryan Tannehill have done a really good job of taking care of the ball. Baker Mayfield with just 7 interceptions, Ryan Tannehill with just 4. So this is going to come down to who can take care of the ball in the end, Greeny.
Bart, what do you think is at stake for Mayfield here?
Everything is in stake for Mayfield, his future as the leader of this football team. Because I said on this show a couple of weeks ago that nobody does less with more. He has 2 of everything. They've surrounded him with everything that he needs. He's going to step up and have to show up and show that he is a franchise quarterback. I think they believe that after his rookie year. I think that it's a lot of question marks about Baker Mayfield and the fact that they really haven't given him the keys to the car. They're putting him in the passenger seat. He's not the driver. It's just running game. But if you're going to give a guy $35, $45 million, you should be able to trust him, because the more money you give him, the less of those luxury pieces you're going to be able to maintain. You know, you have 2 of everything, 2 tight ends, 2 great tackles, 2 great running backs. And Baker Mayfield should have this team a lot better than this. I understand the record is good, but the play is spotty at best.
We'll see where they wind up making that decision. This game could go a long way towards deciding it. That's a big one in the AFC. How about in the NFC? You have Green Bay against the Eagles, 8-3 Packers. Eagles have lost 3 straight, and the quarterback is reeling. Green Bay, meanwhile, right now the 3 seed in the NFC, favored to win each of their 5 remaining games according to our analytics. And so let's take a closer look at that one here and bring in RC and Rob Ninkovich. And listen, Rob, as we talk about the Packers, clearly Aaron Rodgers is playing as well as maybe he ever has and as well as anybody in the league. But does that team have enough defense for Aaron Rodgers to carry it back to the Super Bowl?
Well, if you look at the Bears game, they might. So last year they were opportunistic. They created a lot of turnovers. This season they haven't created as many turnovers, and they're kind of middle of the pack. So I think that if they can get a push here to the final part of the season and into the playoffs, and their defense can step up against the Bears. I know it's the Bears, but they created 3 turnovers against the Bears. They had a strip sack fumble recovery for a touchdown. So when you can create those plays on defense, it takes the pressure off the offense. We all know that the Packers have a great offense. Aaron Rodgers, he can help you win every single week with what he can do offensively. But if you do not play defense in this league, it's going to be really, really tough to keep up. So if they want to do anything in the playoffs, they're going to have to make a final push here at the end of the season, and their defense is going to have to step up.
That's fair. RC, it feels like all the really good teams in the NFC are flawed. The Green Bay flaw is their run defense. Do you believe it's too much for them to overcome? Can Aaron Rodgers overcome that flaw?
You know what? I don't necessarily know if it's too much for them to overcome, because when you look at some of the teams they'll face, they won't necessarily be run-heavy football teams, but Seattle Seahawks are coming along now that Chris Carson is healthy. Obviously, we have Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray in New Orleans, so you will face some teams that are able to be formidable in the run game. And let's not, and Bart kind of talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers falling for the banana in the tailpipe by winning all of these games. Don't forget, last year, the Green Bay Packers were 13-3. The Green Bay Packers won the NFC North, and then they got taken to the woodshed by the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And so we have seen this story before. Obviously, we look at this year as Aaron Rodgers is playing a lot better, and this offense is moving the football better. But we saw the Green Bay Packers go down this road. And if anybody's ever going to use the Chicago Bears offense with Mitchell Trubisky, once benched, now playing as a barometer for how well their defense is playing, everybody's going to be good the last 5 weeks. And so for the Green Bay Packers, just about continuing to ascend, continuing to play well. But please, let's not look at what we do against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears game could have been a confidence booster as well. Like, hey, look, we just dominated this team. They need to do that for 4 quarters. You look at the Colts matchup where they scored 28 points in the first half. In the second half, they only scored 3. They have to play consistently for 4 quarters defensively after a game like the Bears game. Yeah, it's the Bears. We all know the Bears offense is terrible. But guess what? When you could go out there and you can make some plays and you fly around, you have fun with your teammates, that's contagious. And maybe that happens for the end of the season for them.
All right, it's a very interesting weekend. We'll continue to look ahead and make our picks as we go, but there's a lot of injury news to get to. Let me get Diana back in here, and let's run through the hurry-up, Diana, with some of the big stories. It begins with Tua Tagovailoa in Miami. What's the situation?
All right, Brian Flores has been very transparent with the media this week, saying that they are taking this day by day. They're keeping a close eye. I've been told that he is progressing. The injury isn't nagging him that much, but this is going to really come down to a game-time decision. Of course, we know that if Tua can't go, this will go into the hands of Ryan Fitzpatrick, which could be also good news for the Dolphins because he's been successful. Meantime, for the New York Giants, the same situation. This is a day-to-day situation. They're keeping a close eye on his hamstring. Yesterday at practice, he wasn't out in the field because it was a little chilly in New Jersey. His head coach says that he's going to travel to Seattle, so that's a really good sign that Daniel Jones will be there. But this is another situation where this is going to be a game-time decision. Otherwise, if Daniel Jones can't go, it will be Colt McCoy. And then finally, the Seattle Seahawks, as if they need another offensive weapon. Josh Gordon has been reinstated, and his offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, yesterday was raving about him. He says he is such a good professional. He is so hardworking, but also so productive. Of course, he's having his best season back in 2013 when he was with the Cleveland Browns. We saw little snippets of potential when he was with the Patriots, but obviously Seattle getting another boost to their offense.
He's someone that so many people are rooting for, I think, across the league. Do you have a sense that they anticipate him being a significant part of their offense when he gets back?
Yeah, this has been part of their game plan for weeks. We know that we heard the rumblings of Josh Gordon joining this team, even going back to this summer. I remember talking to sources in Seattle, and this is all part of their plan of building up this offense, which I have to tell you, I don't know if they thought it was going to be as magnetic as it has been this season. So the fact that their GM, John Schneider, has done such a good job finding the holes to fill here, and this is really just a great pickup for Seattle.
All right, outstanding. Diana, stay close by. Much more on the NFL as we go, but let's get to the overwhelming college football story of the weekend. Will they or won't they? Ohio State, can they play their last 2 regular season games? And you know the story by now. They're 4-0. They need to get to 6 games to qualify for the Big Ten championship. They've missed 2 of their last 3 because of coronavirus concerns. Here's their coach.
And so, their focus is on Michigan State and winning this game. And a little shorthanded. But it'll say a lot about our program if we can rally this week after having another disappointing weekend last weekend and come on the road and go get this win.
All right, let me bring Heather and Paul into the conversation, our regulars here. And if they do play this game, it'll be without Ryan Day. That is part of what will be shorthanded. How do we stand right now, Heather? When do we know exactly what their situation is?
Well, typically on game day, Greeny, they release a player availability chart. I would expect they do the same thing if they don't do that today. And the player availability chart, remember, it includes injuries. It includes anybody else who might be out. They're not going to say specifically if players are missing because of COVID-19. They have tried all along to protect the privacy of the student athletes and haven't revealed the scope of this. So we don't know exactly how shorthanded they might be, but they are going to test again around 8 p.m. this evening to make sure they get on a clean plane.
Now, so the point is they're going to play if they reasonably can. Paul Feinbaum, I will ask you, is it enough for them to win out? As currently scheduled, they play Michigan State and Michigan. Is it enough for them just to win these games, or do they need style points?
They need style points right now, Greeny. I mean, they are depending on a 13-person committee to determine whether they play for the national championship or not. And it was interesting on Tuesday night, the committee chairman talked about how they did not put Texas A&M at the number 4 position. Why? Because they looked average against the defending national champion LSU. So right now, it's all about style points, getting these games in, but looking good in the process because all eyes are on the Buckeyes.
What's your sense, Heather? No one covers that committee more closely than you do. Obviously, some of the people on it change every year, so it's not necessarily consistent. But is your sense that the eye test is going to be critical for Ohio State?
Yes, the eye test matters this year more than any other season. Gary Barta has said it. It's one of the things they're using to help determine between these vastly unbalanced resumes. And Paul nailed it. Look, when you look at Ohio State in that win against Indiana, which seems like forever ago, Justin Fields threw 3 interceptions. The pass defense allowed almost 500 yards. You're going to finish top 4 in the country. Those things have to improve. And Texas A&M, the selection committee is liking their defense. They're keeping an eye on their offense, but they absolutely considered the Aggies for that number 4 spot this week. So the Buckeyes need to do everything they can to leave no doubt they're a top 4 team.
Paul, how do you look ahead to next week?
Well, yeah, Michigan has problems, as we've heard, with the AP reporting with 12 positives. So it's hard to know until Monday. But if Ohio State cannot play Michigan, the Big Ten has to figure out a way. They have the luxury of the schedule. They can mix and match. They need to be judicious and fair, and they need the support of the other ADs. But Ohio State can't miss next weekend. That would be disastrous for their